How the suppression system works is bullets that pass around the player or even impact near the player. Let's say if you're in a window, rounds that are impacting the sides of that window will count towards suppression. And suppression, as you'll see, will desaturate the screen, and it has some other effects. Makes the recoil a little bit harder to manage, and so it just helps prevent players from instantly popping up and shooting back at somebody who's laying down fire on them, especially at range. It's especially useful for machine gunners and some of the classes with larger caliber weapons. I need a couple more shots. There we go. Here you can see the suppression effect there, and you start to hear the sound of my heartbeat. That lets you know you're being suppressed as the screen desaturates. As I pull up the tactical menu here, you will see a suppression bar. As that goes down to fully suppressed, it becomes harder and harder for players to actually effectively return fire. As you can hear, my heartbeat's beating pretty heavily. And the counter for this is players who enter cover will regain suppression, their suppression bar faster, and as well as be less, have a little bit less suppression on them. So it gives players another reason to stick their heads down and stay in cover. So you can see it's coming back up when I'm not being shot at pretty quickly here. So you can see here's the suppression effect again. And no, to all our fans who are watching, we have not suddenly changed the Call of Duty mode. I am using God mode to stay alive. As you can see, you're seeing the periphery indicators on the left-hand side of the screen here. That lets you know that there's something moving in the periphery of your vision. You won't know if it's a friend or foe until you take a look at it. And that's due to how the way the human eye works. With a screen, the human eye really sees much further than the size of the screen, so the periphery indicators compensate for that. Filter into our overall ranking system. As you can see here, it's not fully hooked up yet, but it shows how well you've been doing, your various stats. You can pull it up at any time, so you don't have to leave a game to go see how well you're doing, or perhaps you're working towards some sort of achievement. You can just pop up your achievements. I know in several other games recently that's been an issue where you actually had to leave the game to go check these stats, and we definitely did not want that to be a hindrance to the player. We'll have class progression as players go through the various classes. We're still messing around with several options here, especially during beta, that players will be able to increase some stats, but we do realize that this is a realism game, so these stats are going to be increased very realistically. A player is not going to suddenly become a superhero. So you can see here there will be ranking for each class as the player goes up, and when they do so with those particular classes, they will be able to unlock some selective gear and advancement for the weapons in those classes. What you're seeing here is just some example placeholders. So the Mosin Nagant here does not really have a 71 drum magazine.
There will be a spectator mode in the form of ROTV 2.0.
As I'm sure we've told you before, our tanks take about 3 months to produce one tank. So that's why we're only going to be shipping with two, the T-34 and the Panzer IV. However, because of that, we have a fully realized interior with crew that are fully animated and do their jobs. So you can see here, I'm going to start driving. And the crew member is going to be doing his job. We have interaction points around the tank that you can, as you can see here, there's a little icon that lets you know it's an interaction point. That's probably not final art, but we plan to have several of these spread throughout the tank. I'm going to drive over here to the rail yard on this map and give you an example of our destruction system, once again in action with the tanks. One of the major complaints we heard from the first game is, well, I'm in a tank and I just got stopped by a small wooden fence. Well, we're happy to tell our players that is no longer an issue this time around. You can either run into the fence and knock it to the ground, or put a few rounds into it and destroy it completely. While crew are alive in your tank, you can instantly switch between positions and take over their role. You can see another interaction point. However, if a crew member dies, then you actually have to physically move to that crew member's position. I believe we've shown that to you guys before, but I'm not sure if we've shown you this. Now we have a command system where I'm sitting here as the commander and I'm giving my driver orders to drive me around the battlefield. since I do have a AI driver in the seat. As the commander, I can also tell the gunner I want him to aim over here. And we haven't finished hooking it up yet, but soon you'll be able to give your gunner targets and have him start firing at enemy positions. A brief example, just to show you again, is I'll kill off my driver. Since we have a much more detailed tanking system this time around, where we have many things on the exterior of the tank that can be destroyed, such as optics by more small arms fire, as well as things inside the tank that can be damaged. But one of the new things that can be damaged this time around is the actual crew. And when that happens, the player will actually have to physically transfer himself into the position where the crew member was lost. Now, I think I know where I took that shot from that killed my driver. Very mad. Gonna blow up this house. And so, as we've said before, we have the ability to destroy whatever we want and as much as we want, but we pretty much only destroy small things such as fences and walls completely. For the larger objects, such as houses, we leave the shell behind because in reality, odds are you won't completely flatten it, and it's much more fun to fight over ruins than flat ground.
Voiceovers in the game will have native accents, so that's a nice bonus. And the game will have voiceover IP, and there will be 3 different types: squad talk, team talk, and squad leaders with commander talk, because you really can't have a team-based game if you can only talk to 3 other people on the mic. The game also has a weight system, so the more you loot from dead bodies, the heavier you move. And from here on out, I'm going to start going into some of the gameplay features and mechanics. R2 has a bleeding system implemented, so if you get shot in a non-vital area, you can apply a bandage to stop the bleeding. If you don't stop the bleeding, you will probably bleed out and die. In Red Orchestra 2, there are no medics, there's no healing, and no reviving. So if you hide behind a wall, you're not going to naturally heal yourself back to full health.
I just shot that soldier and put him into slow death mode. As you can see, he staggers briefly before he finally dies. When that happens, players, because that can happen to players as well, they have a brief opportunity to return fire and redeem themselves potentially.
Any object in the game, you can walk up, lock on, move along the cover. You can push forward to peek up. You can pop up, quickly fire over the top with your iron sights key. You can even blind fire over the top of the cover. Let's see if I can show off a little bit of the first-person cover. So you can see here I can walk up to cover. I can lock right on. Whoa, there's an enemy near me. When I go into iron sights, I instantly pop up and I go back down. I can blind fire my weapon over the cover. I can very quickly peek up. I can even blind fire grenades over cover, around cover. So really the interaction with first-person cover is one of the unique things about the game and one of the things that really sets it apart. One of the issues that we had in the first game was we had an overhead map that showed you just like this, that shows you where you're at and where your objectives are. But this kind of fell apart if you were in any kind of scenario where there was multiple levels in a building, such as this. So what we've added is what we call our tactical view. The tactical view, when you press the key, will bring up icons showing you exactly where the objectives are and the status of them. As you can see, both of these objectives are under attack. Several games have World HUD indicators that show where you need to go, but they're in your face all the time and kind of be distracting. You know, if I was trying to shoot at a guy here and there's a giant cross in my way, it would be a little distracting. This also brings up information about your character, which will fade away when you don't want it. We call this system HUD on demand, and this really gives you the information when you want it and need it, but not when you don't want it.
In R2, you'll be able to sprint, crouch, prone, lean, dive, and mantle over objects, along with the first-person cover system. So you're thinking, what does R2 have in terms of team play features, other than voice over IP? You have a commander class with special abilities, You can now earn kill assists, which you couldn't do in RO1. There's now a mini map so you can see your teammates. And there's some old features like being able to resupply your machine gunners with ammo. The teams will be split into squads, and a squad probably consists of 8 to 10 people broken up into fire teams. Depending on the mission, the squad could be made up of a rifle team, assault team, and an MG team. There may be a separate sniper team. As more players join the server, more squads will unlock for that team. Also, map designers have the ability to set up the squads however they wish. So if you make a map, you can make it all assault classes or all MG classes or whatever you want to do. Red Orchestra 2 also has voice over radio commands. What it is it has a selection of preset voiceover commands that you can use to communicate with your teammates if you don't have a mic or something like that. And I believe that's all the team play features they showed so far, but there could be more. In terms of spawning, you can either spawn at your base or you can spawn on your squad leader. And how that works is your squad leader has to be out of combat and he can't be near enemies.